Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
And
How?
how are you?
Oh, that's.
That's my
I started.
question.
My bad.
Back up.
How am I? I'm okay. Okay. It's been a while. But this week on Thursday, um, Dan took me. First of all, he took me to Sonic.
Love Sonic.
Right. He had never actually done like the car hop part before.
Oh, that's so nice.
So we did that. And then we went to the history museum, to the Japanese garden where all the cherry trees are.
Love that.
And it was like the last week, so like half of them had already like kind of died a little bit, but they were
Yeah.
still beautiful. And I got some really good pictures. Which it's also cute that that's where my parents had their wedding pictures.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And then he drove me to work so that I didn't have to find a parking spot and I could spend more time with him. And then he picked me up from work.
Stop.
Yeah. It
It's
was
so
very sweet.
cute.
It was very sweet. He's
I
kind
was
of
hoping to
a
get out to the botanical gardens this spring, and I didn't make it. Now it's hot, so
that does kind of ruin things.
you
I
know.
love the botanical gardens. But I'm just kind of enjoying the weather and trying to not want to cry all the time. It's
Hallelujah.
funny. On Thursday when we were in the car, I like put on like a summer drive playlist while we were driving down the street and everything, and I literally just go, I'm so sorry. And he was like, why? I go, it's really just almost pathetic the level of like a different person I become when there is sunshine. Like I'm literally not the same person when it is nice out. And he was like, it's okay. I like the other person too.
Hmm. I'm not a nice person when the sun comes out.
Oh my God, I'm so much better. That
No,
vitamin D turns me into like a whole brand new person.
no. I'm angry when it's hot. Um, which if you've listened to this podcast before, you know.
You know.
We've done this through summer. You were there.
Yeah, sure was. How are you?
I am also a new person for different reasons. Um, I quit the bar on Thursday,
Yes, you did.
and it was kind of bittersweet. Like I still have four shifts left. Like one is today
Yeah,
in 2 hours, 3 hours.
same.
Um, but yeah, it was kind of sad, and all of my favorites were coming in. John, who was in Strange Loop, came in, and bless his heart, he's my favorite. And then Marshawn Davis, who's currently in Goodnight Oscar, but was in Anomo, is also very kind. He was like asking me how things were going and how things were going in my life, and I was like, well, I put in my notice today. And he was like, oh my God, congratulations. What are you doing? So I was like telling him, and he was like, I just want to connect with you and stay connected and follow your journey. And I was like, that's so kind.
Love
So
that.
I'm it's bittersweet, and I will be there all the time, I'm sure, because it's near all the theaters. So I'll just
Yeah,
go there as a patron as opposed to making money. I'll be spending money, but it's fine.
because we
But
need to do
yeah,
more of them.
well, of course, of course. What else will we do? Um, but I also next week am going. We're recording today on a Saturday morning before I go to work because I'm on a plane in 24 hours to go to Nashville for the Music Biz conference, and I'm so stoked. I will not be a person when you hear this. I will be back, and I will not be a person. I'll be so tired, but it's really fun. I'm gonna get to see Deb, who I worked for in New Orleans.
This episode won't come out until after we've recorded the next set of episodes. So you'll be back
Yeah,
and dead and alive again.
still dead. No, I don't know that
Oh,
I'll be
okay.
alive again. I think it's gonna take a couple of weeks. Like I'm
Okay.
thinking June is my next stepping
All
point.
right. Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
But all of those things are also true that you said. There will be more recording before this episode comes out. Yeah, and so I get to see Deb again, which is fun. I haven't seen her in a few years because of the pandemic and whatnot. And I'm going to a private tour of the Grand Ole Opry Archives, and I am so stoked. Like we're going to their like main office because we work with them. And so they invited us to come over and have breakfast. They're gonna take us to their private archives. And then we're also gonna see the like regular Opry on our own time because it's much less scheduled. It's every 15 minutes new tour starts.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try and go to Tootsie's, which is like the original honky tonk. And we're gonna go try and get to the open mic, which is like the famous one at Bluebird on Monday. So I'm just like, I have no idea where any of my clothes are. I don't even know what I need to pack. I have to find a swimsuit because we have a pool and I will not be not at the pool.
Right.
I've been,
Oh,
oh God, it's been
we,
so long since I've been in a pool.
I think we opened my pool this week.
Oh, so jealous, so jealous.
Of course, I don't know if it's clean. Like, I don't know if I can actually go in it or if it's just full and it still needs to be treated for the summer, but like, it does have water in it.
That's
So,
okay. Look, that's good enough for me. But yeah, so I'm in a very sleepy place today and a very busy place today, but while everything is chaos, it's all coming out on the other side. Everything's coming up roses. So
good.
feeling very positive about 24 hours from now.
Nice.
But yeah, so you know what else would help me with this positive attitude and make it through the next 24 hours where I won't be sleeping because I'll be packing and whatnot?
That spirituality.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Um, so this quote, I feel like
Oh
really
God.
speaks.
Your
No, I feel
face.
it feels like it really speaks to the episode that we're about to talk about,
Oh God,
um,
of course.
which is distressing. But the quote I have today for spirituality says, "True love is like ghosts, which everyone talks about and few have seen." Francois de la Rochefoucauld.
Yeah, that is not helpful today. That's very sad.
It's very sad.
It's very sad. Okay, so forget everything I said about spirituality helping me make it through the next 24 hours because that'll have me just like in bed. But it's fine. It was beautiful. It was beautiful and it was true. And it
Yeah.
is very
Very,
tied in.
yeah.
It's very timely. Gosh, it's very sad. But it's fine. So that said, I want to give a preface before we start this episode because I did not realize that this is like the darkest episode of American Horror Story, the entire series. Like, sure, a lot of bad things happen in the future, a lot of like weird stuff happens, but this is probably the worst episode of the entire series,
And
emotion wise.
emotional, and specifically for, I mean, not that it's not for everybody, but specifically for people who work with kids, it's
Yeah, I'm gonna give like a real preface. I want to let you know, like, this story opens up with a Columbine-esque reenactment, essentially, as the beginning of the story. And so, if that's not for you and you haven't watched this episode yet, um, skip the first 10 minutes. You're not gonna
yeah.
miss enough. You know what happens based on the end of the last episode, and we'll talk about it here. But it
Um,
wasn't easy for me to watch, and I'm not a teacher or involved in any type of school shootings.
yeah.
So,
It was really, really, really hard for me to watch. And
yeah.
also, Dan relented to watching it with me today, um, which was not good because not only is he just as emotionally empathetic with kids, he didn't see last week's episode to know that it was
What was
coming.
coming. Yeah.
So
So,
it was a difficult morning.
yeah, it's a rough episode, and I totally get people wanting to either skip the full episode or again skip the first 10 minutes. It really doesn't go back into it after that. So,
Oh,
um, but yeah, so warning, trigger warning. I'll put it in the notes before it comes out, just so and by me, Mary Kate will put it in the notes before it comes out, so that everyone is prepared for what they're getting into. Um, and on that note, this is American Horror Story, season 1, episode 6, and I forgot this is one of the only seasons that's 12 episodes, not 10. So we're actually halfway through now. I said that last week, and I was lying.
oh, I thought it was 10 also.
Because every other season's 10, but this is being the first season, it's different, I guess.
I guess.
But yeah, so, but again, this is the most difficult episode through the entire. I mean, there's emotions and stuff, and people die, of course, throughout the others, but it's just not the same. It's okay. So hang in there. Um, it is called Piggy Piggy, which is why I forgot that this episode was
Was
about the
that
shooting
episode?
because I remembered the second half of the episode.
Yeah,
Um,
the other like storyline also incredibly upsetting for no reason.
yeah, it's upsetting, but that's a little more along the lines of like typical American Horror Story.
It's funny because I was explaining to Dan, I was like, a lot of this stuff with like the house being messed up and demons and like all of these like serial killer things, they're not like, they're horror, they're scary, they're weird, they're not upsetting. Everything in this episode was genuinely upsetting.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so you're here for a wild ride. Um it aired November 9th of 2011. If you listened to last week's Sci-Fi Sunday, it was rated 7.9 out of 10, just like Stargate for the fourth week in a row. Like there's something happening with these two shows. Um
Synergy.
yeah, number one song is still Someone Like You by Adele. The number one movie is Immortals. I do not know that movie. I recognized a lot of the cast, and I even went and watched the trailer, and I was like, I don't know what this is.
It's from
So I don't
2011.
from 2011 because I thought there was a TV show called The Immortals that very
There
well could be,
is.
and I think I've seen
There,
that, but
yeah.
that's more recent.
Yes.
Yeah, do not know this film at all.
I mean, it's got Henry Cavill as Theseus though, so like I should
Right,
watch it.
it's got everyone's in it. Like it's got a stacked cast. It's
Oh, Luke.
just
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're telling me Luke Evans, Henry Cavill, and Callum Lutz as like Greek gods, and I have not seen it?
yes, right,
And Joseph
yes.
and Joseph Morgan?
I told you. I told you. I don't understand where this movie is. I think they hit it. I think that it's a Mandela effect and it didn't actually exist. And now they're going back. They're like, oh,
I
JK, JK, it existed.
genuinely, now that I'm looking at this cast, Ryan Reynolds is in it? That's not true, is it? He
I don't
doesn't
know.
have
I
a
haven't
character.
seen it.
Oh my God, Luke Evans' pecs look fucking amazing.
I love Luke Evans.
But Luke Evans, Henry Cavill, Joseph Morgan,
Yeah, I know. I know. It's wild. So this movie apparently exists. It came out in 2011 and everyone should go watch it and I'll probably watch it. So one
I'm
day in
gonna
like
need
three
so like
years.
one day when I have like a couple hours where I want to do nothing but like drool. Maybe I'll like watch it in the winter when I need to eat myself up.
Bring back your vitamin D deficiency with
A different kind
what
of
is the word?
vitamin D.
That was I was gonna say. What's the word? The hormones in your brain that like make you happy.
Dopamine?
Yes, when you need to up your dopamine level. It's kind of vitamin D. Dopamine.
Apparently I have a filthy mind.
You do have a filthy mind. Ugh, I don't know what to do with you. And on a completely opposite place, the number one book is The Litigators by John Grisham, which I haven't read, but it's John Grisham. So like
Right.
probably read that too while you're at it.
Yeah.
Maybe in the summer though, while you already have high dopamine levels, because that probably isn't like a super happy book based on what I know about like other John Grisham books I've read. So now we've got your
Oh,
year planned out. Um, this day, a lot of really random things happened, and I didn't really know where to approach it, so I just took them
okay.
all,
Okay.
and we're just gonna learn about everything that happened this day.
Perfect.
It is a wild ride. So it was the 45th CMA Awards, the Country Music
Okay.
Awards,
Okay.
and it was like the epitome of country music awards. Taylor Swift won singer songwriter, and then both
Okay.
Blake Shelton and Miranda Lambert won for singer songwriters for their specific genres. So like they're still
Okay.
married at this time. This is 2011. So
Oh,
this is a
yeah.
very strange time, a very specific time. I feel like in country music.
Yes.
Um, Shakira won the Latin Recording Artist Person of the Year. This was also the year of the 2011 Thailand floods disaster.
Okay.
Um, it was the the first ever national test for the emergency alert system happened today.
Oh my God.
It's such a weird day, right? Like so many things
So
are happening
weird.
worldwide. And
So
like
weird.
Ed Lee was elected the first Asian American mayor of San Francisco. And
Okay.
last but certainly not least, and this, if you don't know what time we're in, this will bring you right back to it. Joe Paterno and I forgot his name, Graham, whatever. They're not good people. Were fired from Penn State in light of the Jerry Sandusky sexual misconduct.
Okay.
I remember explicitly learning about this while I was in an English class in college. Like it brought me back to the time. Um, are you not familiar with what I'm saying?
No, I am. I am.
Okay.
I just don't remember having a huge emotional connection to it. Probably because we had different focuses in college.
Right. And
Um,
I had also just left working in football like 6 months
yeah,
before. So I was
right.
also very into like college football and very wrapped up. And it's like I was
Yeah.
familiar with like
Yeah,
every team.
you lived in the South, which
Yeah.
means that you knew what college football was. I went to a school that only started having boys at it in the 70s, and
Right.
we did not have a football team. If you wanted to know what was happening in men's volleyball in the years 2010 or 2011, I could tell you everything.
Well, I was also starting my volleyball career at this time. That's when I was
So,
doing intramural volleyball.
but only Division 3. Sorry, Division 1, no idea. Still don't know.
Oh, we were just intramural. I don't know anything about outside of our school.
Um, but yeah, no, the words you're saying are familiar. I vaguely remember this happening. I know now, as someone who actually pays attention to football, that that's like a thing.
It was like a really big deal. Yeah.
But I have no emotional connection to it.
Interesting. Well, I did. And it really put a damper on Penn State for quite a while. I'm sure people still reference it. And that was
Oh, I'm
what
sure.
year are we
No,
in? 12 years ago.
they do, and it's not a
Yeah.
good thing, and it's one of those things where like I probably should care more than I do.
Yeah. But also like it feels like the past for you because you weren't involved when it happened.
Yeah,
I mean, I wasn't involved when it happened. I just was aware of the
thank
happenings.
God.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit farther for me. But it's one of my really good friends went to Penn State at the time. And so it's very
Oh,
strange. Very strange. I
yeah,
didn't know him then. I know him now, but he went to Penn
right.
State then. The director is Michael Uppendahl, who's known for American Horror Story, Walking Dead, and Mad Men. So he's got
Okay.
like some legit credits behind him.
Yeah.
There is no information about him as a human.
I
I'm
I
sure he's
love that.
lovely, but he is working on the upcoming show that I'm really stoked about, Mayfair Witches. I don't know if you've heard of it. It comes out this year,
Okay.
but it seems like it's gonna be really good, so I'm ready. Um, the writer is Jessica Sharzer, who is known for Speak, American Horror Story, The Wormhole, and Nerve. And aside from American Horror Story, I've only seen Nerve, and it was a really good movie.
I was to
It
say
came out. I
I
was gonna
haven't
say, have
heard
you
of
seen
any
it?
of those. No, I haven't
So
even heard of them.
Nerve came out at the time when all of those other films came out, where they were like truth or dare style. So they were like, we dare you to do all these things. You have to get to the like end of the
Oh,
line
okay.
or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
die,
yeah.
basically. And so
Yeah,
it came out in
I
that
hated
time.
that genre.
Oh, I love that genre, so I've seen them all. So I saw this one. um, but yeah, so again, that's all I know about her. Our editor is Adam Penn, who we've talked about before,
Right.
and then our guest star, as you can imagine, is Eric Stonestreet, who plays Derek, and he's known for The Loft, Almost Famous, The Secret Life of Pets, and of course, Modern Family. Um, some fun facts about him because he does have a very broad presence. Um,
Yes.
as you can imagine, Tina Fey was his teacher at Chicago's Second City, which is why he's probably so funny.
Yeah.
He is part owner of the Kansas City Royals.
I did know that actually.
Oh, I
Wait,
did not know that.
Which he is very, very, very big in the Kansas City baseball scene, or obviously for owning, but in general in Kansas City in sports. He was one of the people who was announcing Kansas City's draft picks for the draft last month.
Oh, I didn't realize that because he's from Kansas City, so it makes sense.
Correct.
But like, I did
Correct.
not know.
Yes, he and
I
his boy
wonder.
he and his boys were on stage for a lot of the draft picks, and I was like, God
Oh,
damn it, Eric, why do you have to be a KC fan? I hate them.
that's very cute, though. I'm wondering if he's the reason that the Royals player was on Dancing with the Stars because it's all the same family of ABC.
Maybe that he was really his story was really great though. I think they
It
just kind of
was.
pick people who have really interesting stories that people actually give a shit about instead of
No, they
like
do.
sometimes they're just like you're really famous, but other times they're like you're really famous, but also your life was kind of shitty and like please tell your story and raise
Yeah,
awareness.
yeah, which is always very nice.
Speaking
What
of Dancing with the
else?
Stars,
Yes.
Dancing with the Stars is coming back officially, and because last season did so
Who's
badly,
on it? Oh,
I no no
you
no, they
saw
haven't
Lynn
announced it
died.
yet. Yes, when Len died, I cried. But
Me
Len
too.
had already announced his retirement
I know,
because
yeah.
he was sick. But their last season did so badly being on Disney Plus that when it comes back, it's back to ABC. It's still going to be on Disney, but
Good.
it's back to ABC and Hulu. They have not announced any cast members yet or how they're doing the judging this year. But they did announce that they got picked back up by ABC because the ratings were so bad on Disney.
So they haven't listed like who the judges are going to be, or if like Tyra Banks is still the host. I don't
Not that
imagine she
I've
will
seen.
be.
Not she's an executive producer, so I don't think we have a fucking choice.
I know, but
Um,
like I just like I didn't watch it when she was on there. I haven't watched it in like 3 or 4 seasons, but it got such
yeah,
bad reviews. And so I feel like
it
surely
did.
like as an executive producer, you want the reviews to go up because you're
Oh
making money off
wait,
of it. So,
did they?
you know.
Oh wait, no, they did. Hold on. It's unknown, blah blah blah. Dancing with the Stars. Um, wait. Tyra Banks will not be returning. In a
Wait, who
surprise
won't?
announcement, Tyra Banks will not. In a surprise
Oh,
announcement on March 17th, 2023, former supermodel Tyra Banks announced she would be quitting the Disney Plus reality series to spend more time behind the camera.
yeah, that's the smart business move.
Correct. So Alfonso Ribeiro will be the only
I
host
I
this year.
did see that. I did see that. I'm sorry.
Um,
I didn't know that was happening.
because he was the co-host last season,
Mm-hmm.
and now he is going to be um the main
Yeah.
host, and Julianne Hough is taking his position as the co-host, as like the secondary host. So
Oh,
Julianne is not going to be a judge; she's going to be a
Judge.
host. Um,
So Carrie Ann Inaba.
so Carrie Ann Inaba and Bruno Tanioli and Derek Hough.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It says
Okay.
it's unknown whether any additional judges will be added in the place of the departing Len Goodman. They used to have three, and they only added four, so
Right.
that Len and Derek, because Derek came in on a
Yeah.
season where Len took a break, and
Yeah.
then when Len came back, they didn't want to fire Derek, so they had
Right.
four judges. But the scores don't work as well with four judges,
No,
so
I don't think it makes sense.
I think they might just keep it to the three. Um,
Right.
but I, as far as I know, they have not announced the cast. Oh, wait, 2 days ago they announced the cast. Oh my God, where have I been? Actually, I've been really busy for the last 2 days. So
I
like
know.
that's very valid. But um Charlie Albone from A Better Home and Gardens Landscaper. No idea who that is.
Means nothing to
Um,
me.
Christy Whelan Brown is an actor.
That name sounds
Um,
familiar.
yeah. Um, Emily Weir
Also
is an
sounds familiar.
Gavin Wanganeen. Are you
Couldn't
sure
tell
this is
you.
the correct one? This seems like, nope, just kidding. This is the Australian version. I was like, that's why none of these names are sounding familiar because that is the Australian version.
Got it.
They have not won or announced the Dancing with the Stars cast yet.
Interesting. Okay. Well, stay tuned. I'm sure we'll talk about it. We always do every
We,
year, every season.
yes. Um,
um, yeah,
yeah,
well,
I will find out when that's going to happen. But yes, no, I was reading those names and I go, none of these are famous. And then I was like, That's because this is the Australian cast.
Yeah, that tracks. Yeah, I had one last final fact about Eric Stonestreet before we spiraled on Dancing with the Stars, as we tend
Yep.
to do.
Yep.
He also studied criminal justice to be a prison administrator, which
I
I
love
found
that.
very interesting. And there was
Um,
a quote that he didn't know he was going to become such a big gay icon, but he was like
yeah.
fine with it.
So Eric Stone Street falls in the same category as Eric. Why can't I think of his last
McCormick.
name? McCormick, yes. In My
Mm-hmm.
Favorite Humans, who managed to be straight men who unironically and unoffensively played gay men
Mm-hmm.
so well that no one believes that they're straight.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas someone like Matt Bomer was the opposite.
Correct.
Yep.
Like, but there's always, I see a lot of times that they're like, you should only ever have gay characters played by gay actors. And while I absolutely agree that there are some things that you
Mm-hmm.
can't understand unless you're part of that community and inclusivity and like characters, and like I totally get like you should not have a trans character or a non-binary character played by someone who doesn't know that experience
Sure.
or because it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes people like Eric Stonestreet prove that if you're a good actor, you're just a fucking good actor.
Yeah.
So,
And it's different, I think, when it comes to someone
yeah.
like Eric Stonestreet, Eric McCormick, who, like you said, are not offensive. They are not like, oh my God, I'm not gay. Like, I only know that he's not gay because I looked him up one day and saw he had a
Yeah.
wife. Like, so it's never been like an issue of their personality, and they've never like kind of
Right.
fought against the like stigma that came with
Yeah.
everything, and
Yeah.
which seems very good. And I think it's done more for the gay community than against it. So, which is
Yeah.
nice.
I love that
Um,
man.
Me too. But yeah. So, and before we get started, I also wanted to note, I said there's a new show coming out with Kate Mara. It's called Class of '09, and it's started coming out now.
It was the banner on Hulu when I
Yep.
opened it the other day.
Yep. That's what happened to me today. I was like, this one, this is the one. So I just wanted to make a note of that. So if you're looking for Kate Mara, that's where you'll find her. Not necessarily
Perfect.
under a gazebo, which you may also find her there. Um,
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. But yeah, so we start this episode, like I said, with a flashback to 1994, and Constance still lives in this house. And it starts with her opening the door to police. So we go to the school, and just kind of as a brief overview, it's essentially, like I said, a reenactment of what Columbine was talked about being. Some were true, some things were untrue that came out, so it's hard to tell exactly which parts are true and which parts aren't. But that is what we get. And yes, I'm not really going to get into semantics because we're all familiar with that, especially
Yeah. The
even with the
only
recent school shootings and whatnot.
Yeah, the only note that I made was that it's not that I didn't know it happened. I was just very upset that they showed it. Like they had already
Yeah.
made it clear what had happened. I didn't love them showing it.
That's why I had forgotten that they did show it in this episode, because I was like, oh, that's it. That's all. Because I like had forgotten about that.
Yeah, because it's like even the police coming to the house and what happens with Tate and Constance's reaction, like fine, that's upsetting, but show it. I don't feel
Right.
the only thing that we saw in the shooting scene that gave us any context later was the fact that the teacher didn't die.
Yeah. Right.
And that is you could have
Unnecessary.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So while I do always talk about my love for American Horror Story, I'm also here to let you know that sometimes they don't get it right. And I don't think this is one of those moments where they got it right.
Yeah.
It was icky and unnecessary and uncomfortable, especially at the time, especially now. Like, just, yeah,
Mhm.
things haven't changed since Columbine
Especially
or gotten
because
better.
we are recording this on May 13th. This episode won't come out till May 25th, but we're recording this on May 13th. And if you will remember, 1 year ago tomorrow was the shooting in Buffalo. So like I'm super not
Yeah.
living my best life about this.
Yeah. But then we go back to the house. Tate is sitting on the bed like a psychopath, and all the police barge in, and we get to the credits. And that part I felt like was fine. That could be
Yeah,
included. And that was
absolutely.
a great lead up to the credits.
And even
But
like
that's kind of all we
showing that they
needed.
still lived in the house when it happened and that
Yes,
Constance was unaware of it and her being bombarded by the police, like fine.
all
Yeah.
well and good. All well and
Yeah.
good. Um, and now we're in present day, and Violet is learning about the school shooting and that Tate is dead and not alive. And this is also something I did find a bit distasteful. This is part of the trivia, but the articles she was reading were all true articles from Columbine that they had edited to fit this specific scene.
I don't
And I think
I
that
don't
was
like
not
that.
very tasteful.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't like that. You could have done, they didn't show the words in the articles enough for it to
right.
be worth having done that.
Yeah,
That's
I agree.
distasteful.
So I agree. Um, yeah, so then she, of course, is losing her mind. She starts looking for her mom and she finds Constance. And Constance is like, "Oh, so you found out about Tate?" And she's like, "It wasn't really his fault. This house led him to murder."
Which I find that fascinating because and that's one of the reasons why everything in this whole episode was just so upsetting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Made a note about that because we did not bat an eye when Larry admitted to killing his wife and child because the house made him crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even like we were like, wow, that's fucked up. Can't believe he did that and moved on. But for some reason, with what Tate did, because of the history of school shootings and because of Columbine and because of all of these emotional
Mm-hmm.
connections we have, it is so much more of a guttural stop. But why couldn't the house have driven him to this if it did to Larry that? And like, you know what I
I
mean? Like, I'm not,
Yeah, I think it very well did. But also, when it comes to like the difference between Larry and Tate, we didn't like watch his family burn, and it wasn't a straight reenactment of
oh, no,
something
no,
that
no.
we'd all experienced through. And
I'm still mad at the show for showing it.
right,
100%. I still blame the show for showing that. But but I'm just saying the emotional reaction that
oh,
as a viewer to the fact that Tate did actually commit this
mm-hmm.
horrible crime that he like was talking about in his first
Yeah,
therapy session is I had to take a second and breathe because I realized that like I was putting my own feelings about teens and their mental health in a different, like it was making me look at this situation differently than I was looking at Larry's situation, which is not fair.
I think it's common though because most horror films we don't see a lot of school shootings in horror. We see people killing their wives. We see
Yeah.
people burning down houses, so it's we're more exposed to that. And and especially with like true crime, you that's what you see a lot of is that what people are talking about,
Oh
and
my
people talk
God,
about it because it is more
which
prevalent.
which reminds me of the craziest fucking true crime thing that happened this week.
Lori Vallow's verdict.
Was that the author? Children's book author?
No, you tell me and then I'll tell you.
So this woman, her husband died last year, and she wrote a
Oh,
children's book about how like it's okay and dad's still here to help her three sons cope. And then this week they proved that she's the one who fucking murdered him. She put 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his Moscow Mule, let him die, and then called the cops after changing the insurance policy to make her the sole benefactor and not her kids, and then profiting off a children's book about his death.
I thought you were going to tell me about the woman who wrote the book How to Kill Your Husband and then killed her husband.
No, this lady wrote a book called
Oh
Dad's
my
Still
god,
Here. Like he's still here about coping with her kid's dead dad, but she
that's
killed
so
him.
messed up. Well, this doesn't get better, but this is the Lori Vallow Daybell case that's been going on for 3 years now, where
Mm.
her kids went missing and it was her and Chad
Oh,
Daybell. They
oh
found
yeah, yeah,
them
yeah, yeah.
buried in the backyard. And her verdict was read yesterday, and I watched it live. And she's guilty of everything. She was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder to both her kids and Chad's wife or ex wife. I don't know their status. And she was found guilty of murder for all of them as well. So good riddance. Justice was
Yeah,
served. Took three
yeah.
years, but here we are. We made it. I think Chad's case is still like he's next to be
Yeah,
sentenced. But
well, this author lady, I can't even remember her name because I'm just so baffled by the whole thing. She was arrested this week, so they haven't even gone to trial yet. So I'm sure it will be all over the place.
yeah, I'm sure we'll see it soon. Wow, that is just wild. This has been a wild week. Um, oh, like personally and in the world, like
Correct.
it's been a wild week.
Correct.
Um, yeah, but all that to say, I think that's why it was less offensive feeling watching Larry's because it's something we're more used to seeing, and
Which also says a lot about us as people.
it
Like
does,
not
it does,
not
and like
not me, not you and
no,
me
no, yeah,
individually, but like culture.
yeah, that like that's something, and it, but it also kind of just like feels more less like connected as well because first of all, like I haven't experienced that. My dad didn't kill anyone, and um like so I don't know if like in school shootings I've never been in a school shooting but I've been in a lockdown where one of the students was coming to shoot the school and they just got caught before they got there, and like I've been prepped for this as like a child, so like that feels a little more real to me already,
Yeah.
and so maybe that's why, because your
Well,
dad
and
also hasn't killed anyone,
correct.
so like
Well, no, but also because the other thing is, as a teacher, I obviously feel very strongly about protecting the kids in the
yeah,
school shooting, but as someone with mental health issues and someone who has students who works with students who have mental health issues, my strong like need to understand what is happening to Tate is like, and like I felt bad because like Dan was like, he's a psychopath. And I was like, and then I was like, no, why am I arguing for it though? Like I immediately wanted to defend him, and that I don't know if that's wrong. Like it's I don't like how this
I
whole episode made me feel.
I get it from the standpoint of what we see in real life is a lot of people with mental health issues that are causing these shootings and whatnot. I think Tate's a bit different because I do think the house is making him do it, and I think he's a psychopath because of it. So I think they tried to
Well,
separate it a bit there.
right, but is he
Um,
a psych? But here's the thing: if the house is turning him into a psychopath, is he actually a psychopath? Like we've already, like it's so fucking tricky because like we know who Viv and Vi and Ben are without the house, and then they do this crazy shit because of the house, and so we like
yeah,
know that that's not who they really are, but we only know the ghost people in their post-house life, and what,
right.
and it's I don't like it. I don't like
Yeah.
the and I remember in the very first episode, you and I talked about how so many people have mixed feelings about Tate, and I was like, I will not be that person.
Yeah. And I just said, hang in there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You've made it to the
I've
mixed
made it to the
feelings.
part where I don't
Welcome.
understand.
Welcome. Yeah. And I think this is one of the things that I do like about American Horror Story, and I think it does do well, is it does bring a lot of these conversations about and
Mhm.
does keep them on a more level ground than some other horror shows or stuff. So I
That's
think
happened in
it's
the everything that's
that
happened in the show,
particular.
like right, like there's demon babies and ghosts and shit is a hot fucking mess and it's insane, but also like there are like botched abortions and like mental health crisis and the treatment of special needs people. And it's like, this is all so real and painfully upsetting, but also like, here's a demon baby for you.
Right. Which is why I think this has caused a lot of more horror in some people than some other things. Because everything else, you're like, oh, this demon that's like completely made up is not real. Like, I watch a movie about Krampus and I'm like, that is not scary. I don't think Krampus is coming to get me. I watch this and I'm like, I mean, probably a house isn't going to tell you what to do. But other than that, like, it could all very well be real. And some of it's a lot of it's based on real stuff.
Uh,
And like that's the other thing is like when we watched the episode that was like referencing Richard Speck, it didn't feel as real as this, but that's also something we didn't live through. We weren't
right.
around when that happened. And so it's,
Yeah.
and I mean, I was really young when Columbine happened, but like I grew up in the aftermath. I didn't grow up in the aftermath of Richard Speck. So
Right. Like the serial killers of the 70s are things that we study, but not things that we lived. But the school shootings of the 90s and 2000s are things that we lived.
exactly. Yeah.
So,
And so I wonder if we were, teenagers in the 70s, if we would feel
feel
differently reacting,
differently.
like about
Yeah.
the Richard Speck stuff and everything. Um, there's no way to know. No way to know. We don't know anyone that's from the 70s. I'm
Well, I mean,
just kidding.
I know people who were alive in the
I know.
70s.
I know. No, my aunt watches the show and she hasn't seemed to have the same all feelings about stuff like Richard Speck or anything. So I don't know that it would have the same outcome.
Yeah.
But it's also a one off and it's like you watch this and you're like, Richard Speck. He was one guy and his was very specific. This very specific scene has never happened again. There have been other serial
Any,
killers, of course.
yeah, but also anything that happened that has to do with kids hits people differently.
It does. And like the fact that it's so prevalent still, like it's the same scene over and over. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
still happening over and over. Like, and I'm sure there are similarities throughout, different shootings. Um, so I didn't mean to spiral on that, but here we are. Um, where was I? Okay,
We've
so
only gotten as far as like Violet finding Constance in the kitchen.
yeah, it's okay. Everything else kind of moves a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Um, so Constance takes Violet home with her to talk to her, and this is where we meet
Sarah Paulson.
Billie Dean Howard, who is played by Sarah Paulson. And I did not talk about her this episode because Eric Stonestreet was our guest, and Sarah Paulson will have many, 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 many more episodes of American Horror Story. So do not worry, we will get to her. And fun fact, this is not the only season that has Billie Dean Howard. I will tell you no more than
Oh,
that. But
interesting.
so we find out she's making a lifetime pilot because she's a medium, an journalistic-esque medium. And they're talking about she found that out because of her housekeeper at the time came to her when she died. And then Constance makes this remark and she just says, what'd she say? It's hard to keep good help. And I was like, you killed your maid. Like,
And
you couldn't
then
keep good help because you killed her. And now she's been with that house for 1,000 years. Not that many, obviously, because Constance's still alive. But um, that was very funny to me.
yeah,
Billie Dean also confirms that Tate doesn't know he's dead.
that might have been the most mind-fucking thing for me the whole episode.
Yeah. Because we had talked about it, and it's like he really seems like he doesn't know what's going on, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we had
But
literally just said that he genuinely has no memory of killing these people and like what is happening.
yeah.
The fact that he doesn't
Alas.
even know he's dead. But that also confuses me into the why he wouldn't sleep with Vi, because I thought he wasn't going to have sex with her because he knew that he was dead and that he couldn't like do that with her as a person.
I
But
think
so
it was
I
more of a
think
mental health
I
concern.
I think the fact that he was like, I don't know because of the medicine and how he was feeling, that is actually valid. I thought
Yeah.
it might be an excuse, but now that I know that he has no idea what's going on, I think it is actually valid.
But also, I mean, I think he's also nervous because he's a teenager who thinks they're still a teenager who's never had a relationship before. And like, so I think there are a lot of
There's a lot
other
of
factors
facets.
that
Yeah,
play
yeah,
into
yeah.
it aside from him being dead, which is a big one, but he doesn't know that.
Right.
Um, and Violet just like immediately refuses to believe anything. I was like, okay, Violet.
She doesn't, except for that she absolutely does because
Yeah.
Billie Dean says something about what her grandma's last words.
Yeah. And those are kind of ominous. And I don't remember if we find out more about that, but I hope we do because I do not remember that.
It
So we'll see if that comes back or if that's just a little peek into her life we never hear about again. We'll see. So we go to Vivian and we don't realize it at first, but she's having a weird dream about the
I
baby.
was
And she's
so
like,
confused. I
it
literally
was
was
such a
like
weird moment.
out loud. I was like, the fuck? And Dan was like, why was she not pregnant? I go, not that pregnant. I go, plus she's pregnant with a demon baby. And then you saw the hands moving. He goes, oh, I see. And I go, yeah, something is. And then she woke
Something's
up
not
from the
quite right
dream.
there.
She woke up from the dream and I go, oh, thank God. And he goes, what? I go, don't worry, it's still a demon baby. That part's not real or not fake.
Yeah, no, that part's not an issue. That's not an issue here. Um, yeah, but oh, and so she wakes up, has to dream about the demon baby, and calls the police. obviously she just wants to see him. There is nothing happening.
She's obsessed with him.
Yeah. Because also, as soon as he gets there, she's like, I kicked my husband out. Like, nothing
She's like,
matters.
I don't know why I'm telling you this,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah. And then we find out that his wife also cheated on him. So now they're like basically married. Um,
Right.
but then Ben walks in
Because of course he
and she's
does.
like, why are you here? And
He's like, I have to go
we
to work.
yeah, but before he like gets real into this conversation about work, we learn that Hayden never made it to the police station, which we obviously saw.
Yeah.
But so he tells him, he's like, definitely keep your security alarm on because who knows what's gonna happen. She may try to kill everyone. It's
Yeah.
fine. And then he just like is on his way. But Ben's still using this as his office because he doesn't have any money.
So you can't just
And
like rent another office.
right. And Vivian is pissed, but she's also like, I like obviously you have nowhere else to go. So you're gonna have to do this. And I was like, I want to punch him in the face. And she sets the strictest boundaries. And she's like, you're in for your clients. As soon as they're out, you're out. This and that.
And
Don't go this way, don't do that. It's like,
she
good for
literally,
you.
she's like, you will be involved in your children's lives because I
Yeah.
happen to think you're a really good dad, but I am not your friend. And we are not. And I was like,
Yeah. She's like, I'll just be there.
right. But I did appreciate that because like, yes, like it's going to be a nasty divorce and they are not happy. But like
Sure.
sometimes when things like that happen, people get really bitter and angry and pretend that their partner was never a good parent just because they weren't a good partner. And I was really grateful that she was like, no, you are a great dad, but also fuck you.
You just suck as a person. Yeah. Yeah, so then we go to Violet and she starts cutting again, which she had stopped when she was getting close to take because she didn't feel alone. Then she has this like image of her slitting her own throat, which is upsetting.
I almost
But
vomited. I was trying to eat my cereal.
but then Tate shows up and it turns out it was all in her head. She did not do it. And we go to Ben and Derek. And this is where we see Eric Stormstreet for the first time. I might kind of talk through these a little quicker just because we're coming up with some time. So Derek talks about his biggest fears being essentially urban legends. He's like, which one? He's like, all of them. Candyman, like all of these things. And then he says, but specifically Piggy Piggy, which are the Piggy Man, which I had never heard of before.
I
Have
had
you heard
never
that one?
heard of, no. I've heard of like Pigman Road.
Right. Yes, I've heard of that. But like we did a whole urban legends episode. I've never heard of this guy. So I don't know if it was made up for a horror story. I didn't look it up.
Yeah.
Basically he's a hog butcher who used to dress as a pig to befriend pigs before he killed them and slaughtered them. And one day he slipped and fell and the hogs ate him alive. So, you know.
But then all his customers started going missing and apparently he was just like murdering them in their bathrooms when they say "Here, piggy, piggy" in the mirror, which is the fucking weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life.
He was slaughtering them and hanging them like he did pigs in the butcher shop, which is just very strange. It's just a very strange thing. It sounds very similar to Candyman, aside from the like hanging in the bathtub thing.
Yeah,
but like you have to call it. I mean, same thing like Beetlejuice, all these other things, Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
So then he like has the visual of him like seeing him in the back. And at first I was like, I can't tell if this is a flashback to him actually calling him or if it was a nightmare.
Right. I couldn't tell if he was a ghost or if he was having a nightmare. I was like, is he another one of our dead people?
Yeah. So I was like, this is a very, like, I thought that was really well done. That I was like, I don't really know what they're telling me is happening here, but I like the unknowing.
Yeah.
And then we go to Vivian and Moira and so Vivian's on the phone and she's calling about the nurse who fainted. She's like, I just want to talk to her. I want to know what's going on. She saw something and she wouldn't tell me. Turns out she quit. She doesn't work there anymore. Because good riddance.
No. Right.
And then Constance shows up and she tells her she's brought her offal, which is just like intestines. And I would just put gross. I have gross a lot throughout this section.
That was the other thing that I had a very hard time watching a lot of this episode because of the eating visuals. I was trying to vomit. I was trying not to vomit for most of this episode. Right.
Yeah, she brought pancreas, she brought thymus, she brought all of these things. And then she's like, why don't you saute it for like you used to do for me? And I was like, that's not great either. Like, but fine. So she's and Constance is like on her way out. She's like, you gotta eat up, you gotta be healthy, quote unquote. We need that baby. I was like, okay, Constance, this is not your baby.
Um,
Maybe
I
dial it back a
genuinely,
bit.
I genuinely like my only note was like I have no idea what Constance is playing at. Like I do not understand her end game here, even a little bit.
I never know her end game. She's always got plans. And Moira says, like, so Moira keeps hooks it up for her. She starts eating it, and she's telling her how like strong she is, and she's like, cheating is so terrible. And she says that cheating on a pregnant wife is akin to murder. I was like, you're not like super wrong, but like there is no actual death there.
Yes, but that put into context for me the fact that um Constance was pregnant when she killed her husband.
Yeah.
And it must have been when she was pregnant with Addie.
It must have been she found out she was pregnant with Eddie because she wasn't showing yet.
Or yeah, because it was too long ago to have been Tate, right?
Yeah.
It was in the 80s. So Addie would have already been born. It would have been when she found out she was pregnant, or like late seven, because Addie's older than Tate.
I was gonna say which one's older. I always forget.
If Tate was in high school in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
and Addie was a little girl outside the house in the early 70s when the twins were
Oh,
born.
that's true.
So it must have been when she was pregnant with Tate, which is probably
Yeah.
also why Tate is her favorite.
Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all that tracks. And we're back to Ben and Derek. And Ben is taking him to the mirror in his bathroom. And this like this
This was
therapy.
okay, first of all, this was fucked up and it got weird and I don't like it, but it was the first time that I was like, oh, maybe he actually does therapy and doesn't just like sit on the couch listening to them talk shit.
I mean, yeah, but I also like don't agree with the way his style of therapy. I don't
Oh
think
no, his
immersive therapy is always a good
immersive
idea.
therapy is not always the best idea, but like I was just glad that he wasn't falling asleep on the couch listening to his
Oh,
patients
true.
anymore
Yes.
because
Or
he does
thinking
a
acting
lot
like
of
they were
that.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's taking him to the mirror in the bathroom and he just turns off the light and shuts the door. I was like, that is a bit much. That's a bit much.
Dan just goes, why do you need the lights off? If you're just trying to get him to practice and not be scared, why the fuck did you turn the light off?
I know. I know.
I was like, no, you're
I was like, why don't you just like, and you make him say all this stuff in front of the mirror. I was like, why don't you just tell him not to say those words? Like, I don't understand, but it's fine.
I mean,
And so
no,
he does it,
I get it because he's trying to prove that it is an urban legend and it's not real and that he has nothing to be afraid of. Like that is
but that feels
actually,
like
I
a
don't,
lot at first.
it does feel like a lot to start. I think maybe he should have just gotten as far as like, remember how we told you to shave and then you didn't and you just looked at your toaster? Maybe let's like just shave. Like let's be in the
Yeah,
bathroom. Like we
right.
should
Like
just
go look in a
start.
mirror
We should just like
with the light
start
on and
there.
the door open. Like,
Yeah, no, I think that he had a good end goal, but I do think he
right,
probably moved a little quickly for someone as clearly a mess as Derek was.
right. Yeah. And he does this and he looks in the mirror and in the bathtub, the dead nurse comes out. So obviously that's a little frightening. And maybe the murder house is not the best place to try to get rid of your fears.
Yeah,
But
no, for
no way
sure.
to know. And so he obviously yells, and Ben comes in there, and Derek's like, "I'm broken." I was like, "No, no, you're not broken. The house is broken."
Oh my
Like,
God, that was so sad. I like wanted to
it was
cry.
so sad. I know. We have a brief stint with the doctor where Vivian goes to do the amnio test, and she specifically asks about Down syndrome. I think she's still reeling from Addie's death.
Yeah.
And of course, she wants to make sure nothing's quote unquote wrong with the baby, even though that doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with the baby. But
Yeah.
there are some other things, life or death related, that the amnio test will check. So,
Yeah. And the
yeah,
doctor explained what all of the things that they're testing for are.
right. And so, it's not always a safe test, but as long as it is safe for the mother and child, I say
Yep.
do it to make sure everything's in order.
Because
Um,
even if it's not something like if it's Down syndrome or cystic fibrosis or something that's not wrong, quote unquote, as in like you would not keep the baby, you also should, if you have the opportunity to be prepared ahead of time for
absolutely.
adaptations you're going to have as a parent, you should be able to have that preparation.
Yeah, because you think you're preparing after you've had a baby? Absolutely not. you're lucky to get home and be awake long enough every time you need to be. Like, no. So yeah, no, it's important information to have so you can be educated and prepared,
Yeah.
and do the best for your child.
Especially of the child with special needs who is going to need way more care than you are meant, like,
Right.
than you could even try to mentally prepare yourself for.
Right. Yeah. So now Violet's back with the mean girl, and I never remember her name, so I just call her the mean girl.
Leah.
And what is it, Leah?
Yeah.
That's right. So, and they're just bonding over fear. They're both terrified of everything now.
And
Um,
the whole speech about revelations and like I was like, what?
yeah, I was about to say she did this like overall this like short retelling of Revelations. And then she tells her she has these pills, and Violet, of course, takes them because she's not sleeping and she's terrified. And then she goes to the school to see where everything happened. And like, I feel like you could have even put this scene in there, and that's fine if you didn't include the first one.
Yes.
Um, but she is looking around, and the teacher comes up and tells her, he's like, this is where it happened. And she's like, oh, you're like a hero. You're the teacher. And he's like, sure, this is what a hero looks like. And he's, of course, like traumatized,
Yeah.
obviously, from everything that happened. And then she's starting to like ask about stuff, and she starts yelling at him. It's like, are you kidding me?
She was like, why are you bullshitting me? Like,
Yeah.
ma'am,
I was
he
like,
doesn't owe you anything.
because she's asking like for justification. She's like, was Tate always like this? Why did he do this? And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't say anything different. And she's just like yelling at him. I was like, don't you think if they knew they would have done something? I mean, hit or miss,
Right.
maybe. But, there's more of a chance they would have done something knowing than not knowing. So
Yeah.
back to Viv and Moira. And Vivian is firing Moira because she doesn't have the money and doesn't want to like finish it up. And Moira's like, it's fine. I'll work here for free. Obviously, where else is she gonna go?
Right.
Um, so Moira just like won't leave. And she's like, here, I'm gonna feed you more food, more of this awful food that Constance brought over. And now she's brought her a raw brain. So not a lot of savory items in this episode.
Yeah, no, it was
Um,
not. I was, ugh. This was honestly a harder scene to watch than the Columbine scene.
yeah, it was very gross. And then we go to Violet, who's looking for Tate, and she finds him finally, and
Yeah.
tells Tate he needs to leave. And she is finding all the dead people now. The twins run behind her. She sees the nurse. She sees the people that broke into their house. Like, it's just insane.
Yeah.
And then she, of course, runs out of the basement. Lovey-dovey music is on, and she looks at the wall, and it just says, I love you. So then she has the pills that Leah gave her, and she takes too many in order to overdose, which I obviously she does not realize just means things would be worse. She would just be stuck there with all these people she's trying to escape. But she's a teenager, she's not thinking clearly. But thankfully, Tate comes to the rescue because he does actually care about her, and he drags her to the bathroom and then like makes her vomit and get everything out of her system so she
Yeah.
doesn't die. Um, we're back at Ben and Derek. And we learn that Derek has met a new girl and he wants to get better so that he can bring her home and he can have a
Yeah.
normal life. And I was like, you're being very healthy with this. Like, you're doing what you got to do to deal with what's bothering you. And Ben is like hella harsh about everything.
Right.
I was like, you are not helping. You're a therapist. There's like steps you have to take. You can't just yell at
Clearly he
someone,
does not. He clearly does not.
obviously. And then Vivian goes to the church to meet Nurse Angela, who is the one that fainted and then quit. And she's like, thank you for meeting me here. I didn't realize this was a church, yada, yada. And
Yeah.
Angela's like, yeah, after I saw the like unclean thing in your womb, she was like, I would not meet you anywhere that's not at a church. And then she starts calling the child the quote unquote the beast, which is like
Yep.
the devil. And
Yep.
um, she's like losing it. So Vivian leaves, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our last scene with Derek, where he's trying to do what Ben says. He's trying to go all in. He looks in the mirror and he's saying, here, piggy, piggy, yada, yada. And the curtain to his bathroom opens and he gets shot. And while it is not the the actual urban legend. He just happened to have two robbers in his house and walked in at the wrong time. It's very sad for him because he dies.
Yeah, I was so upset about that.
It's very sudden, also, which is
Yeah.
strange.
So,
But yeah, so that's the end of Derek, and we go to Constance and Billy Dean, who are chatting about Addie, and she's like, I just really want to talk to her. And she's like, great, she's here. Let's do it. And she's telling her, she's like, she is mad at you though, because you didn't say any of these things while she was still alive, because she's talking about how like much of a blessing she was and how beautiful she
mhm.
was. And she even tells her, she's like, you were my reason for living, which is all very sweet and all very true. But she, again, did not say a lot of these things while she was alive. And then
Yeah.
Constance, it was, oh God, it was so heartbreaking. Constance said she was really proud of her and she's the most beautiful girl in the world. And as we can clearly tell, it's Addie because she says she's finally a pretty girl and she's thankful for not being trapped in the house with Tate. And so she's appreciative that Constance didn't get her to the lawn in
But
time.
she said she's scared of Tate now that she knows the truth.
Yeah, which is so sad and upsetting. Um, but it is what it is. So then go back to Violet, who's now fine. I guess she's going through Tate's bird book, which we learned because she pulls out
Yeah.
the library checkout card and it has Tate's name on it. And he comes in and he starts telling her, he's like, "Oh yeah, I love birds." And she's like, "What are you doing here?" And he just like goes all out and starts like confessing his undying love to her. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay. And then of course, because she is a teenage girl, she forgives him. And she's like,
I
great,
don't
let's cuddle.
I don't know if it was forgiving. So I saw it as her because she knows the truth, because she knows he's dead, because she knows he's broken, and she knows he doesn't have anyone else and he never can.
Yeah,
She pities him. And I think a part of her
which
does
is
love
true.
him. I think a part
I
of her
think so
does
too.
love him. And so it's hard because she doesn't love the truth and she doesn't know what to do. But
Right.
she's stuck in this place of not really knowing what to do.
Yeah. Which is fair and sad. And he did save her life. So, like,
Right.
that's fine too. If you're gonna forgive someone for killing everyone, at least it's because they saved you, I guess. Um, and that's the end of the episode. We have made it through kicking and screaming, but we got there. Um, so who do you want to punch in the face?
I want to punch that guy who shot Derek for no fucking reason.
Mm, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good call.
Because that was just rude.
He's like, he called me a piggy, and it's like, no, that's absolutely not what happened. He doesn't even know you're there, obviously.
Right. And he's just trying to get over his fears. And like at that point you had finally realized that he really wasn't like a crazy person. He or in the sense that like he wasn't one of our murder house people. He was just a genuine patient
Trying
and
to become
that
a better version of himself
trying to make himself better. And
so he can live a normal life. Ugh, heartbreaking. Yeah. I'm gonna punch Ben.
Claire, because he is
You
not
know,
a great,
he's not a
not
great
a,
therapist. He is,
no,
however, whenever Violet ran to him when she was upset, she's like, I'm so broken. I'm so the worst. And he was a good dad to her. But
no, he was. He was actually like a really, really good dad in that moment. I
yeah,
was like, oh,
but I still want to punch him for all
yeah,
the other moments.
yeah, for sure.
So who's your MVP?
Wow. What an episode to try to pick a good person, though.
Right?
Um, I, I don't know. I don't think any of them were
Everyone
really,
sucks.
everyone sucks. Everyone's motives are questionable. They make poor decisions. They're not, I think it's hard because like, and then there's certain people who have really good praiseworthy moments and then also really questionable moments. Like I want to pick Constance because like her
Yeah.
admitting her problems and her faults and her trying to figure out if Violet is the right person to help take crossover, and her talking to Addie and her trying to like process everything is like the best version of her we've ever seen.
Right.
But also, what the fuck is she feeding raw meat to that looks like it may or may not be human to fucking Vivian for? Like, I don't. So I'm completely stuck. I'm gonna have to pick Derek because he's the only person who has no bad qualities in a whole
He's
episode.
trying so hard to be
He's
a better
trying
version of
so
himself.
hard.
Bless his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best choice. He is the only non-problematic really person here. I'm gonna have to go with Billy Dean.
You know, that was actually Billie Dean was on my short list of people to pick when I was
Yeah.
really trying to figure out what is happening.
She's trying to help Constance out. She's trying to talk through Addie. She's trying to help Violet out.
And we don't know if what she's trying to help Constance with is good or bad at this point.
Sure.
But she doesn't seem to be, other than being a little bit self-centered and pretentious. Yeah. She doesn't seem to really be a bad person.
Yeah, we're learning about Billy Dean still. We don't know a lot about her yet, so she's still in the green.
I'd give her like an orange.
I do have a bit of trivia for you.
Fantastic.
Derek's bathroom was also the bathroom used in Beverly Hills 90210 for Brandon and Brenda. It was their Jack and Jill bathroom. You just don't see the other half of it.
I love that. Fantastic.
Whenever Tate imitates shooting himself. Oh, yeah, it ended with the cops. There was a shootout and the cops killed Tate. Sorry.
Yes.
I didn't say that. Yeah, so that happened. So in that moment when he imitates shooting himself, it was a direct reference to the 1976 film Taxi Driver, when I think it was Robert De Niro's character came out of the like shootout and he did the same thing.
Yeah.
There was a goof. There was a book on the cart when they put it in front of the door called The Children's Blizzard, and it wasn't published until 2004, and it was 1994. And then some of the wounds from the people who were killed in the shooting were not the same when we saw them dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an episode of American Horror Story, and it only gets better from here.
Thank God.
Stay tuned. I did not look up what the next episode is, so let me do a little lookaroo, see if I can give you a little hintsy hint.
Okay. I mean, honestly, just the fact that it won't be about this is...
Yeah. Can guarantee it is a different episode than this one. Huh. I vaguely remember this episode. Okay, I vaguely remember this episode, so it's fine. It's a fine episode.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have any hints for you because I don't remember enough about it. But we're gonna get back to the selling of the house, trying to get it sold. It's going back on the market. But yeah.
All right.
So if you have thoughts, concerns, feelings, please email us, deathandaliens@gmail.com. Find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you for Sci-Fi Sunday. I was like, what? This will be not quite June. Not quite June. We have one more. No. We have one more Sci-Fi Sunday.
Yes.
Before June.
Correct.
So we'll see you for that one. It's going to be good. We're going to have a great time. And everyone else have a great time. And I hope you're all doing well. We love you. And we'll see you.
Bye. Bye.